So now you become attuned to what your shot feels like. And what we want is them to know what the right shot is, their perfect shot. Now you watch her, let's watch how consistent it becomes. Really, really close to the same shot every time. Now her shot's going to be different than, say, Jen Ruddle's shot, or Trooper Johnson's shot, or Will Waller's shot. But for her, what counts is that it's the same shot for her every time. Her self-awareness of what her same shot is every time. From here, you can open your eyes, Steph. We'll bring the athlete onto the court. A lot of times we won't start at the free throw line. We'll start forward, but we're going to have Steph stay here today just so that we don't juggle our camera shots around. I'm going to have her take 2 shots just like she did without the ball. Then I'm going to hand her the ball. What I'm trying to do now is get those 2 shots and the shot with the ball to be exactly identical. A lot of times handing the ball to the athlete and the distraction of making a bucket becomes a distraction that messes up their mechanics. We're trying to turn her focus back to her body. Take 2 shots. Okay, see your hands a little bit tighter with the ball than without the ball. It's a small little difference. Ball, 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 ball. 2 shots. Okay, a little bit softer that time. Okay. Okay, 2 shots. Now, while we're doing this, we don't do a lot of corrective feedback. I'm not going to say your hand was like this, okay, your elbow's down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to remind the athlete, picture your shot, shoot what you picture. I'm not going to try to make a whole lot of corrections unless something's really horrible. But basically, I want them to learn their shot because we're going to get them into a state where making a hoop is not a distraction anymore. So that every shot around the key at any time in the game is the same shot. Okay? First possession of the ball game, she's going to shoot that way. Shot clock's running down, she's going to shoot that way. 2 seconds on the game clock, down by 1, she's going to shoot that way. Because she's not worried about the ball going in. She's thinking about, picture my shot, shoot what I picture. So she visualizes the positive image in her mind. Go ahead, take 2. There we go. So you can begin as a coach. When I'm watching Steph, I can watch her shot, and probably 99% of the time, from looking at her shot alone, I could tell if it's going in. I don't have to look at the basket. And do you know what? That's what great shooters do. They know the ball's going in before it goes in because they know their body. Okay? So, anything to add, Steph? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? Doug? Okay, that's a great question. The question is, so what about the guide hand? We address the guide hand in cowboy shooting. Okay? The guide hand goes on the side of the ball. Okay? And once you release, it never goes above your head. That's what we would like to see. Now again, we don't have perfect muscle symmetry in wheelchair basketball. You'll see athletes that'll shoot what looks like a 2-handed shot, and their guide hand goes above their head. A lot of times, that's for power generation. What you have to watch with the guide hand is that it's not pushing the ball off that line. Right? Your elbow follows your hand. As long as your guide hand doesn't push the ball off to one side, that's okay. If it's used for power generation. Question.
What is the progression of the different shots around? So if you have an elite athlete and you go through that process, you started in one spot and then move to another spot. You always start at the free throw line? That's one question. The second question is, how do you work 5-footers above the head for big men? Is there a similar sort of progression that you go through?
Okay, great questions. Okay, first question, how do we progress our shooters? Within our athlete development, you take a look at your young kids or your beginning athletes that are shooting cowboy shooting. We don't want the distance from the basket to be a distraction. So we have them start in and they're close enough that their mechanics aren't altered in order to get the ball to the basket. You see those young kids and they go from having this great shot when they're 5 feet out, they move out to 15 feet and they're just chucking it like a baseball or a football. So we want to keep them in close. We don't move them out until they establish consistency with their mechanics and get strong enough. The other thing we do, when we first move an athlete outside of the key, we move them to what we begin to call their foundation spot. We want them to pick a spot on the court outside the key that is their most comfortable spot. We want them to get a lot of volume in there, establish those balance, eye, elbow, follow through mechanics from outside, get lots of volume in, get really comfortable from that one spot, and then we begin to move them and let them pick a second spot. We want that foundation spot because on those days when you're doing horribly, when you can't hit anything from anywhere, you go to that spot. That's a great starting point. Okay? From there, the next progression after volume is getting game-like shooting. Now we're going to do things like Doug Garner talked about in a previous clinic. Okay, we want to make things game-like. We want to get a hand in the face of the shooter. We want shooters to have to shot fake. We want them to have to shot fake, take a dribble, and reset. We want them to have to do a cut, catch, and shoot off a pass. So we begin to do things in a game-like progression. After that, we go to your second question. We make things position-specific. So for a post player, then we're going to take them and we're going to begin to shoot from above their head. A lot of the mechanics are the same, but you don't have to worry about power generation. We take some of that power away because they don't need it. We may have the guards work off of screen reads, so they understand where they've got to look to read a defender, how they reset behind a screen. So we begin to make things position specific. Is there such thing as too much time in front of a mirror? You know what? That depends on what you're doing in front of the mirror. If you're practicing your shooting, I don't think so. If you're taking care of your personal grooming, possibly. Question.
Say for instance, like the right hand shooter, like my right hand shooter is on the right hand side of the court with a square hand face off with a shot like you said, with that hand. Okay, just say if he's got an open shot on the other side, because like I struggle on that side. Your right hand is on the outside, your guy hand is over here. You're trying to shoot the square, it's like you shooting on the opposite side of the hand. Like, you know, some people shoot their left on this side.
Okay, that's a great question. What if you're a right-handed shooter and you have a particular side that you feel good with? A lot of times, right-handed shooters like the left side of the court because it squares them up a bit better. Left-handed shooters like the left side of the court. Okay, biggest thing I tell our shooters, don't have a side that is a preference. We want them to shoot from all sides. So there was a question earlier about elite shooters. I don't want a guy or a lady to just shoot from the left side of the court all the time. We want balance in our shooting. We've got our foundation spot. Okay, we're going to move around. We're going to take just as many shots from this side of the court, just as many shots squared up, because we don't want the other team to be able to take away that side of the court and have us completely uncomfortable on this side. So that would be the answer to that. Don't develop yourself so that you have limits that can be defended. Have an answer to any type of shot the defense is going to force you into. So another reason why it's really tough to shoot too much. There's always different types of shots to take.